to Andrew McCutchen. You saw Joe Mauer there getting the rest to start things off for the Twins, so Mike Redmond getting the start. McCutchen, though, he has been impressive since he has made his way into that Pirates lineup. So the first pitch he swings at is tap foul, so the count now is 1-1.
The interesting thing about McCutchen is, you look at his straight chart. We were talking about this before the game. This is a guy not unlike a young hitter that you'll see. First opportunity up there, he gets a little bit pull conscious because he's a little bit anxious, and I think eventually once he settles in, you'll see him go the other way better.
The 1-1 pitch on the way is tapped back to the box. Easy play for Blackburn. The throw is over to first and in time for the out. So quickly one away here to start off the game. Take a look at the rest of the defense behind Blackburn and the Minnesota Twins. Going from third to first, you have Joe CREDE, Brendan Harris, Nick Punto, and Justin Morneau in the infield. Out in the outfield, Jason Kubel, Carlos Gomez in center, and Michael CUDDYER over in right field. And as we mentioned, Mike Redmond gets to start behind the plate. If you're going to have a backup behind the plate, well, Mike Redmond is not a bad option when Joe Mauer is getting a day off.
Well, that's what really, when you look at this Twins defense in particular, they've had the fewest errors of any team in Major League Baseball, 24 errors in 66 games. There are 4 teams that have more than double that.
Nigel Morgan looks at a strike, and the count now is 1-1. Well, Ron Gardenhire is going to have to watch out for the team speed at the top of that Pirate order. If they get on base, then you allow that middle of the order with plenty of options. You could hit and run, you could steal, and certainly between McCutchen and Morgan, they have lots of different options that they can play with at the top of that order.
Yeah, Morgan's a guy that, from the left side, against left-handed pitchers, he's hitting about $140, so it's nice that he's from the left side today. I'll hopefully be able to utilize that speed with a drag bunt.
He's shown bunt a couple different times, Jim, but the count now 3 balls and a strike. McCutchen seems to be growing up pretty quickly there in that Pirate organization.
It's interesting. They have a nice little competition when it comes to stolen bases. They had it in AAA when they played together last year. Morgan won out by, I think it was 4 stolen bases, and so far we'll see how it goes at the Major League level. Chopped
over towards short. Harris is there for the easy throw to first, and there are 2 away here in the top half of the first inning. So that'll bring up Eric Hinsky. He is the DH. We take a look at the umpires as well. The home plate umpire is Delphin Colon. Around the infield, Randy Marsh over at first, Marvin Hudson at second base, and Lance Barksdale gets the call over at third base. Hinsky batting from the left side. Swinging at the first pitch. It's grounded over towards first. Justin Morneau is there, and Blackburn works a 1-2-3 inning here in the top half of the first. We move to the bottom of the first. The Twins are coming up. We have no score from the Metrodome. This is MLB.TV. Well, no runs pushed across in the top half of the first inning for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but in the bottom half of the first inning, the Minnesota Twins come up to the plate. We are getting awfully close to the start of outdoor baseball in Minnesota. But while we're still here indoors, let's take a look at the Twins lineup. And it'll be Carlos Gomez at the top of the order playing center field. Brendan Harris, the shortstop, bats second. Justin Morneau hits third and plays first. Michael CUDDYER gets the cleanup duties and plays right field. Hitting fifth is Jason Kubel out in left. Third baseman is Joe CREDE batting 6th. Brian Busher's the DH. Mike Redmond's the catcher hitting 8th. And Nick Punto bats 9th and plays 2nd. First pitch swinging for Carlos Gomez. He lifts it into shallow right field. Bit of a hustle coming in for right fielder Brendan Moss, but he's able to make the play for out number 1. Take a look at the pitcher right now for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I tell you what, when Zach Duke takes the hill, he has also been the most impressive pitcher on the Pirates side of things. So we have ourselves a nice matchup at the Metrodome. 7-4 with a 3.10 ERA on the season, as Zach Duke gets the call for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we have both teams' number 1 starter so far. Duke has pitched very well as well. Giving up a couple of home runs here, 5 home runs in his last 2 starts, so something to keep an eye on here today.
Brendan Harris now digs in with 1 away here in the first, and the first pitch he sees is outside. I guess, Jim, when you have 2 guys that are kind of moving along and working like clockwork so far this portion of the season, I mean, what do the offenses take note on how their game plan is going to be, take more pitches? Like, how do you approach somebody who's obviously on fire? Yeah,
neither guy really walks a lot of them, so you're going to try to take pitches and try to run up the pitch count, but you know that if you take too many, you're going to get behind in the count pretty quickly.
No, it's a good call. All of a sudden, your strategy goes out the window when you're sitting with a constant 0-2 or a 1-2 on your plate. In this case, the 2-0 pitch is hit back up the middle and through for a base hit. So Brendan Harris looking to start things off for the Twins here in the bottom half of the first inning with a 1-out single.
Nice piece of hitting there by Harris that took a 2-0 fastball almost off the plate, drove it right back through the middle.
And that'll set up the big hitter of the lineup now for the Twins as well, too. Here's another look at it. Harris going with the pitch. 1 away here, bottom of the first. Runner on first, and Justin Morneau steps in. Now, you can make an argument that Justin Morneau is perhaps the most feared hitter in the American League. Quietly the most feared hitter. I mean, he won the Home Run Derby back in 2008. I mean, look at the numbers he's putting up already this year. 16 home runs, 55 RBIs. We talked about Joe Mauer, what he brings to the table. Morneau is perhaps maybe the most dangerous hitter in the American League, quietly.
He's among the leaders in home runs, batting average, on-base percentage, slugging, hits. He really is. He's having a very quiet year, in a good year. The interesting thing is he did a lot of that the first month without Mauer in the lineup.
Really had to carry the offense for the Twins. They sit a game below 500 right now, but I'm not sure that people believe that's where they'll be when the end of the season comes around. As Duke takes a look over to first, and Harris is back. You know, obviously Morneau gets helped out when Mauer is backing him in the lineup, and I think, Jim, that's you make that point. That's certainly going to help him, but the fact that he can carry on his own just shows how good of a hitter he really is. 1-1 pitch on the way, and this hit into the opposite field in the gap. It's going to get down for extra bases. Harris is rounding second. He's now making his way around third. Morneau is stopping up at second. The throw coming home to the plate is cut off, and scoring with the game's first run is Brendan Harris. An RBI double for Justin Morneau. Minnesota's lead is 1-0.
Obviously, Zach Duke pitching to him in that situation. Not a lot of protection behind him with because Mauer is out. CUDDYER is a much different hitter, but Morneau takes the pitch the other way. Nice piece of hitting to left center field.
Well, that's just it. You get a pitch on the outside part of the plate like that, Jim, you think you're doing your job against Morneau. You're staying away from that hole on the right side of the infield, and he's still able to do what he did right there.
It's a good piece of hitting. Duke made 2 good pitches. One to Harris was outside corner 2-0. Harris took it up the middle, and Morneau took the outside pitch and went to left center with it.
Here's Michael CUDDYER. And CUDDYER's no slouch himself. I mean, he doesn't bring the same type of either maybe fear or just the ability to get on base as frequently as Mauer does, but he does bring some power. He has an all-around type of bat as well, too.
You know, CUDDYER's been battling this finger issue here lately. It's really affected his swing. He hurt it against Tampa at the end of May on the 31st, and it's really bothered him the last week. He actually got a cortisone shot over the weekend when the team was in Chicago. A hand specialist seemed to clear him. It seems to have gone away, and you know, that finger and hand issue, that can really affect you at the plate if you let it linger.
I think oftentimes people seem to knock baseball players with some minor injuries, especially around the hand area, and say, how could you pull that off in other sports? You just tape it up and go. But there are so many different mechanical movements that are going on in a swing. I mean, just imagine if you're getting a 90-something mile-an-hour fastball riding in on your fingers, what is CUDDYER supposed to do?
Right. I mean, especially you're using wood, and that'll rattle around your fingers and your hand. I mean, it is not a good feeling.
A ball and 2 strikes to CUDDYER, the pitch on the way, and that one is fouled over towards the right side. LaRoche is going to give a chase, and he's able to make the play for the out.
Nice pitch here by Duke. He really jammed on 1-2 pitch, fastball inside, in on his hands. Again, we talked about that finger. That's really how, until he shows otherwise, that's how I would attack CUDDYER, is pitch him inside.
Rest of the defense for the Pirates looks like this, with his brother Andy LaRoche over at third, Jack Wilson, Ramon Vasquez, and Adam figure out the infield. Nigel Morgan, Andrew McCutchen, and Brandon Moss in the outfield, with Jason Jaramillo and Zach Duke making up the battery for Pittsburgh.
You see the stat, the Pirates lead the majors in turning the double play. They turned 5 on Tuesday night. They have 77, leads the majors. Cleveland's right behind them at 76. No errors in the outfield this year.
Wow, very impressive. Defense is going to win you ball games. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, that's certainly something that, and I'm sure the speed has something to do with it. There's a lot of speed in the outfield. And some good gloves in the infield as well, too.
That's been a major thing for them. Sanchez only committed 1 error. It leads all second basemen with a .997 fielding percentage.
Wow. Pitch in the dirt, blocked by Jaramillo. No movement by Morneau over at second base.
You know, just one more point on the defense. Pittsburgh has not been known for having good defense or good pitching. They made a transition in the offseason with hiring the pitching coach, Joe Kerrigan, and he has made a positive impact on the pitching. They've also really improved their defense, and I think that's the formula. Very similar to what the Twins have been doing for years. It's interesting that you're starting to see the Pirates try to emulate the team that they're playing.
The 2-0 pitch on the way to Kubel is outside. The count's 3-0. I guess, Jim, it would be a perfect question for you as a former general manager. I mean, it's easy to just say go out and get all 5 tool players, but you can't do that. Did you ever put more of an emphasis sometimes when putting together your team as maybe an offensive team or a more defensive team?
Tried to find two-way players, ones that could play offense and ones that could really go after the ball and catch the ball defensively. Guys that had speed, you know, and then could play on the defensive side. That's been the big change since the big drug policy has gone into effect. A lot greater testing. There's not as many home runs, and there's more little ball being played, better defense, more emphasis on speed.
3 balls and a strike to Jason Kubel. 2 outs, bottom of the first. 1-0 Twins. Justin Morneau with an RBI double off of Zach Duke that has gotten the scoring going, and now Jaramillo is going to go out and talk with his pitcher as well, too. You know, when you have Mauer in there, look at how the lineup just rolls for the Twins between Morneau, Mauer, CUDDYER, Kubel, however you want to mix it up in there. Now, the addition of Joe CREDE as well, too. This is a very talented offense for the Twins, and if they get going on some sort of a roll, one of the more underrated ones in baseball.
It really is. If you look at their offense overall, they're about average, slightly above average in the American League, but with Mauer, since his return on May 1st, they're second in runs scored, batting average, on-base percentage, and hits, and they're third in home runs. He's had a major impact on the offense.
3 balls and a strike, the pitch on the way, and a swing and a miss, low fastball. And Kubel now is to a full count, 3 balls and 2 strikes, 2 outs, bottom of the first. And for Zach Duke, certainly is the first inning, the dreaded first inning, where you have to get a lot of pitches out of the way, and then hopefully you settle down. He's already thrown 15 so far, as Kubel lines one foul down the right field line of that play.
Kubel was one of the more, I'd say, unknown players in the league. I mean, this is a guy who usually DHs. Delman Young is not in the lineup. Denard Span just went on the disabled list with an inner ear infection. So he gets to play in the outfield. And Kubel has some power from the left side.
He showed a little bit of it right there, although hooked it a little bit too far foul as the 3-2 pitch comes in once again. This one's lifted opposite field. And coming on to make the play is Nigel Morgan. He had to make a couple of hesitation steps backward before making the play, but not before Minnesota picks up a run. Justin Morneau with an RBI double into left center field gives the Twins the early 1-0 lead. We go to the top half of the second. This is MLB.tv. that one away. Now coming up is his brother Andy LaRoche. So how about that? Blackburn getting the job done pretty quickly.
Pittsburgh being very aggressive at the plate. They are not known for walks. They're second to last in the league in walks. Hinsky, his last hitter of the last inning, swung at the first pitch and was out. And obviously LaRoche first pitch there. They got to run in my opinion, they got to run the pitch count a little bit deeper here on Blackburn.
Andy LaRoche with a home run in last night's game, Wednesday night. As the Pirates picked up the victory, he looks at a first pitch that's down low for a ball, 1-0. 283 hitter on the season, 31 driven in, inside.
Andy LaRoche is one of the players acquired in the Manny Ramirez trade last year at the trade deadline. Obviously, he came over from the Dodgers. Hasn't shown a ton of power at the major league level, but still young as a player. And it's still debated among scouts in the scouting circles if this is a guy that's going to be an everyday player or not. He's going to get the opportunity to sink or swim with the Pirates.
Tapped over towards third. The play is made by CREDE, and he throws across the diamond in time for the out, 2 away. Well, we talked about that Pirates defense and how impressive they've been, but anytime anyone comes into the Metrodome, it is certainly, well, a little bit of a task as trying to decipher where that ball is coming down from in the infield. This was earlier in the series. You lose it up in the dome sky, I guess you can call it. Andrew McCutchen having some trouble.
It's a distinct advantage for the Twins when you come in and you're not used to the dome, the white background at the ceiling ball. If you don't keep an eye on that ball from the very point it comes off the bat till it comes down in your glove, you have a chance to lose the ball. And you see many visiting teams come in. There are a lot of teams that are going to be happy that the Metrodome is not going to be in existence anymore.
All right, now I'm not saying it's the sole reason, but certainly it is among the reasons why the Twins have been among the best teams in Major League Baseball at home. I mean, when they play at the Metrodome, a 22-13 mark on the season at home. Certainly it deciphers from their road mark. It's why they sit at around 500. But, Ron Gardenhire's got to feel extremely comfortable when he knows he's coming back into the home ballpark.
Well, they do, and that's the second most wins in all of baseball. The Red Sox have a distinct advantage at home as well. They are number 1. The Twins are number 2. But you look at their offense, the Twins' offense in the Metrodome, they're third in runs scored, batting average, on base percentage. If you look at their team, they have a lot of guys that hit the ball on the ground, which is obviously advantageous when you play on turf.
The 3-1 pitch to Moss is fouled back and out of play, and the count now runs full, 3 balls and 2 strikes.
As we show Moss here, he's been a guy that hasn't been playing as of late. He was also in the trade from Manny Ramirez they got from the Red Sox. A lot of scouts thought of him as an extra outfielder, a 4th outfielder. He's been working on some mechanical flaws with the hitting coach Don Long, so he hadn't played the last 5 days.
Foul back into the screen once more. Count stays the same. Kind of rare, actually, so far early portion of the game where the Pirates have taken taking Blackburn deep into the count here.
Finally, they're going to take a guy deep in the count. Again, with a guy like Moss, I mean, this is a guy that was 4 for his last 28 and 0 for his last 15.
Broken bat into shallow right field, and that one's going to get down in front of Michael CUDDYER. Coming over from center is Carlos Gomez to make the play, but cruising into second with a stand-up double is Brandon Moss. So a broken bat hit there for the Pirates with 2 outs.
CUDDYER didn't look like he got a great jump on this ball. He certainly doesn't have as good a range as a guy, let's say, as Denard Span, who obviously they just put on the DL. I mean, that Denard Span catches that ball without any problem whatsoever. CUDDYER just doesn't have the same range.
That gap in right center field was a pretty big one with which Moss was able to work with there, and he got lucky, dropping it right in. So Moss in scoring position. And now Jason Jaramillo steps in, and he looks at a first pitch strike. Well, the time that Jaramillo has gotten behind the plate, he has been hitting all right. 281, a home run and 15 driven in for Pittsburgh.
This has been one of the big surprises, the offensive production that they've gotten out of the 2 catchers, both Jaramillo and Diaz, while Ryan Doumant's out.
Grounder over towards first. Morneau's going to take it himself and pick up the 3rd out of the inning. So the double by Moss ends up being stranded. Blackburn works his way out. We go to the bottom half of the 2nd inning as the Twins 1, the Pirates nothing. This is MLB.TV. The bottom half of the second coming your way, and that's right, get your All-Star ballots out, an opportunity to vote for some Twins and perhaps send them to St. Louis for the Midsummer Classic. We are just about a month away from the All-Star game in St. Louis as Joe CREDE starts things off here in the bottom half of the second inning of play against Zach Duke and looks at a strike. CREDE's been a big pickup, if not just for his presence defensively, but also what he has done at the plate. And I think ultimately they'd like to see him get that average up a little bit, but 10 homers and 30 RBIs is certainly nothing to frown about.
No, CREDE was one of the better acquisitions. Minnesota, they've had a missing link there at third base. They haven't been able to find a consistent third baseman. They toyed around with trying to pursue Casey Blake. Blake signed a big deal with the Dodgers. They ended up getting CREDE, who's obviously been battling back injuries. He had a little bit of lower back stiffness earlier this year. He's had 2 back surgeries here in the last couple of years.
CREDE lifts one off the end of the bat into shallow right field, going back to make the plays. Ramon Vasquez from the second base position, and we have one away.
Out in front of that curveball right there early on, the off-speed pitch has been pretty effective for Duke.
Stepping in now, the designated hitter, Brian Busher. Take one more look at that one, and Jim, looks like you were right, an outside corner of the plate there for that one for CREDE to be able to try and get out in front of.
Right off the end of the bat there, too. I mean, that's one, if he's able to stay back on, he can drive it, but it's so slow. Duke's curveball is so slow, he just couldn't stay back long enough and caught it off the end of the bat.
Now, I know it's different pitches. If I'm not mistaken, the one that Morneau hit for a double was a very different pitch, and the same thing for Harris when he got his single, but those are outside pitches where Harris and Morneau were successful because they went with it and able to drive it into the gap. It appeared there that CREDE was trying to pull that ball.
Yeah, Duke used a slider to get Kubel away, the last out of the first inning. With CREDE, he went with a curveball away with a much slower. The break on Kubel's slider, or on Duke's slider, was 83. The curveball was about 74.
2-1. And that is hit off the ankle of Brian Busher, and it goes foul. So the count now is 2 balls and 2 strikes. Yeah, because you got to believe, I mean, both these pitchers, Blackburn and Duke, they're not going to blow you away. It's not going to be all due to fastballs, and it's not going to be the hard stuff that's going to get you. So they got to paint corners and come through with some good off-speed pitches.
They do a nice job of changing speeds off their fastball, keeping the ball down, working away, and then they'll surprise you with a fastball in.
In the dirt, the count moves full, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Well, we talked about the home presence of this Twins ball club and mentioned that they are among the better teams in baseball with a 22-13 record at home. 3-2 pitch is grounded foul. I mean, for as much as that dome will not be missed by opponents, the Twins will, to an extent, miss the Metrodome when it closes at the end of this year with the success they've had there, the 2 world titles, of course, in the late 80s, early 90s as well, too.
You look at how they built their teams. They've really built their teams a lot of times around speed, and especially in that outfield. But they had 3 center fielders at the end of last year when they had Span, they had Gomez, they had I'm trying to remember the other outfielder that they had, but they've had speed in that outfield. Delman Young is another guy who has battled some foot problems, but he's also a plus defender. So between the 3 outfields, that's an above-average defense, and that's how they've built their teams over the years from the Metrodome.
Tap back towards the box, fielded by Duke. He's going to spin and throw to first in time for the out, so quickly 2 away here in the bottom half of the second inning.
The other thing that the Twins have done, why they've been so good defensively, they get players that make the routine play. I mean, Brendan Harris is a player, he's not a flashy guy, but he's a guy that will make the routine play. Same thing with Joe CREDE. He's a defensive guy at third base that can make the routine play, and that's really when you talk about trying to win ball games with in a market that has mid or lower level revenues. That's how the Twins have been able to do it. One of the ways they've been able to do it.
First pitch to Mike Redmond is a strike. All right, so let's go through some of the reasons then that maybe that the Metrodome will be missed. I think ultimately fans, players, everybody want to get outdoors. Even though it'll be cold in Minnesota, playing inside a dome a little tough at times. This was lined over towards second and out. So we'll get back to that and a little bit later on in the game because the Metrodome is in its final season here in 2008. Through 2 innings of play, it's a 1-0 lead for the Twins. You're tuned to MLB.tv. Into the top half of the third inning of play, it is the Twins 1 and the Pirates nothing. Justin Morneau with the RBI double. That came in the first inning to give the Twins the lead. So that's how you know you're in Minnesota, though. You get the hat that has also those woolly ears on the side available and a moment's notice. So you don't think that these fans will be ready for some outdoor baseball, you're kidding yourself.
You carry that in your back pocket.
That's part of growing up in Minnesota, I guess. For the Pirates, Ramon Vasquez, Jack Wilson, Andrew McCutchen, 8, 9, and 1 due up here in the order to lead things off in third. Nick Blackburn, very effective so far as the Twins are holding on to that early 1-0 lead. Quite a difference as far as pitch count is concerned. Zach Duke, 32 pitches to get through his first 2 innings. Well, Blackburn only half that point, and he is already making his way here into the third.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, again, been very, very aggressive at the plate. They do not take a lot of walks. They're one of the teams that have last or second to last in on-base percentage in walks.
And a nice running grab out in left field. The play made by Jason Kubel, and potentially robbing Vasquez of extra base hits. So a first out made here on a nice defensive play by Jason Kubel to start out the third.
Look at the full-time DH going after that ball in left field. It looks like he's been out there quite a bit this year and made a nice run down. Looked like he's going to be fouled. I don't know what you think on that one.
I agree with you. I think a step or two to the left side of the foul line, but either way, it's nice. Even more impressive for Kubel in that sense. He had to run that extra foot or two. Nice first pitch slider in there for a strike to Jack Wilson. Also, Kubel showing that defensive speed. He was just a little jealous. We were talking about Morgan and McCutchen the entire time in that Pirate outfield.
Not feeling the love, is he?
He wasn't. This is a single into center field out in front of Gomez, so Jack Wilson is aboard here with a 1-out single.
Wilson's a little gamer. His name's been mentioned. We can talk about this later. His name's been mentioned in trade talks, it seems like, every single year. But every year he's still in a Pirates uniform. He's one of those guys who plays hard, does the little things. You can bat him down in the lineup. Sometimes you can bat him number 2, but he really can handle bat and drive the ball up the middle or the other way.
Well, now Wilson's experienced some tough seasons as a member of the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, you had mentioned it earlier, Jim, when you were talking about the Pirates' development and how it seems as if they're getting to the ways of what the Twins usually do. Would you argue that we're looking at 2 similar market teams, maybe payroll spending, not what they've actually spent, but the ability to spend during the course of a season?
I think that's very fair. I think they both have similar revenues. I think their idea is about the same of what they're trying to spend in the future. And I think that's something that the Pirates really, when you take a look at it, John Russell has obviously Minnesota background, but Neil Huntington, the general manager, came from Cleveland Indians. That's another mid-level revenue club. They brought another executive from the Twins, Larry Corrigan, to the Pirates to work underneath Neil Huntington. So they're trying to have that imprint or emulate the Twins and what's made the Twins so successful, which is building through the draft and having productive draft picks.
The 0-2 pitch to McCutchen is just off the plate. The count moves to 1-2. So then why have the 2 teams gone in such opposite directions then? I mean, the Twins have been the example of what to do throughout Major League Baseball throughout the years. And the Pirates, well, it's the exact opposite.
The exact opposite. You want to look at Pittsburgh, you look at their number 1 picks from 1996 through recent picks. You'll see, we'll highlight that after this play.
Tapped up the middle, and the speed of McCutchen is just going to beat out that play. So the Pirates have runners on first and second. How about that, Jim? Jack Wilson safe at second, and McCutchen on a play that normally might be recorded at least 1 out, able to beat out the play.
Interesting with McCutchen. I mean, he is made for turf. I mean, he hit a ball like that, you have very little chance of getting him at first base. I mean, most guys are out at first base, and actually Wilson, who has some speed, prevented that from being a fielder's choice by hustling down to second base.
Take a look at the last 5 years for each of these organizations, and you get a sense. Here, start with the Minnesota Twins. I mean, no lower than third, 2 first-place crowns. Last year really had a chance for a first-place 2, just lost in the playoff game to the Chicago White Sox. 4 playoff appearances this decade. The Twins are an example of what to do, Jim, whereas the Pirates, it's the exact opposite.
The Twins have had remarkable success for their market in this division. It's a very tough American League Central, but they've had tremendous success, and the main reason why is their drafts. If you look at their drafts, even going back into the late 90s, just their first-round picks, Travis Lee, Michael CUDDYER, Aaron Heilman, Joe Mauer, Denard Span, Glenn Perkins, Matt Garza, all are players that have had a major impact with their club or in trades.
Well, for the Twins, they've gotten it done the right way, and the fans have certainly noticed it. There's been great support of the Twins up in the greater Minneapolis area. That extends. I mean, the fan base for the Twins extends all the way through the Dakotas, the western side of Wisconsin, and far down south, too, until you start getting into Cubs territory as well. But the Twins fan base has experienced a lot of success recently. Tap back up to the box. Blackburn over to second for one. The throw to first, just in time to get the speedy Nyjer Morgan. And the Pirates are down here in the third. No runs able to cross. A runner left stranded as well, too. The Twins with a 1-0 lead over the Pittsburgh Pirates as we go to the bottom of the third. This here is an MLB.TV exclusive.
You know, we've talked a lot about how Minnesota is so successful. This play accents what they are all about. Minnesota, this is what seems like a easy double play that is not as easy as it looks. 1-6-3, especially with the speed of Nyjer Morgan busting down the line there. Easy double play on a play that you work on a lot in spring training, but it is not an easy thing. A lot of moving parts there. Yeah,
you know, I guess, who the hitter is. You know that Morgan is gunning down that line. And it's that kind of pressure that you put on a defense when the mistakes are made. But everything, like you said, was fluid motion.
If you don't work on that play, the pitcher a lot of times will rush the throw to second base, and he has a chance to throw it into center field. And obviously, with runners on base, that would have cost him a run.
Bottom of the order here for the Twins. Nick Punto, the 9th place hitter, in the hole, 1-2. Twins have themselves a 1-0 lead. Justin Morneau with an RBI double in the first. Duke into the windup, the 1-2 pitch. That's fouled out of play as well, too. Well, just to touch on one more thing with the Twins, and of course we got to break down the Pirates as well, too, and find out why it's gone the opposite way, Jim. But the Twins, the draft picks have been made correctly, but I remember when a lot of the players were leaving town, the Torrey Hunters and the Johan Santanas and more. Ultimately, it's a nice diving play made up the middle by Wilson, and he had different ideas of what to perhaps try to do to make that play, but it just didn't work out.
That goes to what we talked about with Wilson earlier. He's a guy that has above average speed. He gets to a lot of balls. That ball you expect should go through the infield, and probably on grass he's able to make that play, but the turf ball speeds up, and he only has a chance to dive for it. He doesn't even have a chance to get up and throw him out.
So the leadoff man is aboard here for Punto. Wilson has a bit of a smile about it, but
what else am I going to do? He said. What do you want me to do there?
I was going to throw a lefty, but it just didn't work out. Back to the top of the order. And first pitch is inside for a ball, so the count is 1-0. But that Twins team, a lot of those guys who left, when they left, said the toughest part about leaving is that they went through their entire minor league career and major league career with all the same guys. They all got to know each other so well and play so well together because they had traveled the same route.
They had, it was a key. If you look at a lot of their Twins now, and they're going to have an interesting decision on Joe Mauer because his contract expires at the end of 2010, but you look at a guy like Morneau who was signed up. for the next 4 to 5 years. And obviously we talked about CREDE. He's coming in from a different organization, but Michael CUDDYER signed a long-term contract. They just signed Scott Baker in spring training to a multi-year deal. So if the player has shown a willingness to stay in Minnesota, somehow Minnesota has found a way to keep him, and that's what's going to make Mauer and that signing so interesting, because he's going into the prime of his career at 27 years old, one of the premier players, not only premier catcher, but premier player in the game. What he could command on the free agent market would be a lot of money.
And Gomez shows bunt. Tried to lay that one down the first base side, couldn't do so, so the count now is 1-1. Bottom half of the third inning of play here at the Metrodome.
You know, as much as about that consistency that you talked about with Minnesota, they've had consistency from year in and year out when it comes to players and the front office. If you look at their front office, they've had very few. 1992, Tom Kelly and Terry Ryan as a general manager, and then that's passed on to Gardenhire and Bill Smith, and that has been the only changes in their front office or their management team since 1992. That is an unbelievable run. Conversely, Pittsburgh's had 4 general managers and 4 managers during the same time period.
Wow. Runners going. There will be no throw as Punto is in there easily with a stolen base. So now a runner on second with nobody out. Jaramillo did not have much of a chance there. That was a heck of a jump by Punto.
Yeah, Punto got a good read. He's going on first movement, which you have to sometimes do on left-handers who have a good move. As soon as he lifts the leg up, he took off. Obviously, Duke wasn't expecting to throw to first, nor was he expecting him to steal. He got a stolen base. He probably could have gone in standing up.
3 balls and a strike to Gomez. And that's just low for a ball, so the walk now sets up first and second. So Punto aboard second with his 6th stolen base of the year. Gomez with the walk. Let's take a look at the Pirates now. Conversely, we talked about the success of the Minnesota Twins the last 5 years. Well, the Pirates, I remember in 2006, Jim, said that they wanted to line up that first good season with that All-Star game. Didn't work out, and they've had some trouble.
They've had some trouble. They did try to line up. They spent some money that year. They put money into the wrong players. They've had some terrible drafts. If you look at their first-round picks, 1996 was their best first-rounder, and Chris Benson out of Clemson. He was the #1 overall selection. After that, they've had names Bobby Bradley in 99, Clint Johnston in 98, never got to the major leagues, Sean Burnett in 2000, John Van Benscoten in 2001, Brian Bullington in 2002. They've all got about a cup of coffee, and you have to expect more from your first-round pick. Some of those names I mentioned as Twins are impact-type players. The Pirates have not had the same success.
I'm trying to remember how many of those guys that you just rattled off with the Pirates are even still with the team. I mean, who's had the most success? Brian Bullington, and that's not even with the organization, and that's very limited with Toronto.
Yeah, a number of them have had injuries. Pitchers have had injuries, and there is a huge question in terms of their whole pitching program over there. That's one thing with Joe Kerrigan going into Pittsburgh. He's added a pitching program from the major leagues all the way down to the low minors.
Maybe Sean Burnett's had the most Pittsburgh success out of that group. But either way, you're right. The draft is certainly going to play a big impact. And as you know, we just recently passed the 2009 draft where Steve Strasburg was the #1 overall selection of the Washington Nationals. Talk about another organization looking to get themselves on the right track. But that draft can really be very crucial. And I know, Jim, you've had quite an influence on the draft as well, too, with your time with the Mets and with the Orioles.
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh is one of those teams, even in 2007, they could have gotten an impact player, Matt Wieters, and they chose a different route.
Ground ball is going to go into the hole and through for a base hit. Nick Punto stops up at third, in fact, slides into third. Not aware of where the ball went at the time, but the base is loaded for the Minnesota Twins.
You know, that was a tough play for Punto. He had to go with first and second here, and he's not sure if the shortstop's going to come up with the ball, so he has to slide into third. Not quite sure that the ball got through. Obviously, if it got through, he had a chance to score there.
Then again, though, in the situation that the Twins are in right now, you can't blame him. He's got nobody out. Bases loaded situation, and, well, not a bad time for Justin Morneau to step in.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to get thrown out at home with Morneau at the plate, that's for sure.
Bases loaded. Morneau with an RBI double back in the first inning to give the Twins that 1-0 lead. A big chance to break things open here. First pitch off speed in the dirt, 1-0.
Obviously, critical situation here. He's going to start him off with a breaking ball, see if he can get him to fish, but his margin for error is not very good, obviously, with Morneau.
Certainly Duke looking to keep something on the ground here for Morneau. Inside the count now 2-0.
Interesting with Minnesota, with runners in scoring position, they haven't done that well. Batting average 12th in the American League with 2 outs, but 7th overall. But where they've been better with the bases loaded, and obviously that is a whole different approach. The pressure really is on the pitcher, not the hitter, and the Twins, that's something that they work on in the low minors all the way up to the major league level. They've had a great approach.
The 2-0. That's top foul, so now the count is 2-1. Well, you know Morneau is a professional hitter. He's obviously still ahead in the count here at this point, but he knows he probably only sees, what, Jim, 1, maybe 2 good pitches to hit this entire at-bat?
Yeah, he's going to have to be selective here because Duke's going to try to get him to fish for something. Even that pitch there at the 2-0 was a little bit off the plate.
Another off-speed pitch bounced over towards second. Vasquez to second for 1. Back to first in a double play. A run will come in. No RBI on the play for Morneau, but it is a 2-0 lead now for the Minnesota Twins.
If you're Zach Duke, you're in this situation, bases loaded, nobody out, and you have one of the premier RBI guys at the plate. This is what you're really looking for. He throws an off-speed pitch. He gets Morneau out in front of that ball. He drills it into the hole, into the ground, pulls it to the second baseman, a routine 4-6-3 double play. Now they have man on third and 2 outs.
Well, I think you bring up a great point, Jim. I mean, even though a run scores, it's probably the best thing that could have happened outside of a strikeout or a pop-up. But, I mean, you wanted to get it on the ground, and you got Morneau into just 1 run that play.
You're just trying to limit the damage. You don't want to have a big inning here and try to keep it close. So, obviously, in a bases-loaded situation with Morneau up, if you can get him to ground into double play, now all he needs is a pop-up or a strikeout, and he's out of the inning.
Down low 2-0. And now still, again, like we mentioned, CUDDYER not a bad option, but this is where Joe Mauer, to maybe drive in that extra run, would be pretty key, too. And Mauer just getting the day off for Ron Gardenhire, so Mike Redmond gets the start. But CUDDYER with an opportunity here to drive in another run for the Twins. 2-0 pitches down low, and the count now is 3-0.
CUDDYER's already left a runner on base this game. Obviously, in the first inning, he came up with Morneau on second base. He popped out to the first baseman. He got behind in the count. Now, this at bat, he's ahead of the count. We'll see what happens here with a 3-0 pitch.
Runner on third. The 3-0 pitch to CUDDYER. And it's in there for a strike. May have caught the corner.
May have got it.
2 away here in the third inning. 2-0 Minnesota. The 3-1. And that's hit over towards short. Fielded by Wilson. Strong throw to first, and that's just going to get the hustling Michael CUDDYER down over at first base. But the Twins able to pick up yet another. They take a 2-0 lead through 3 innings at the Metrodome over the Pittsburgh Pirates. You're tuned to MLB.tv. Looking for that extra edge to win your fantasy league this year? Well, catch the MLB.com Fantasy 411 weekdays on iTunes, the exclusive blog at fantasy411.mlblogs.com, and now on Twitter at Fantasy411. The Twins hold the early 2-0 lead here over the Pittsburgh Pirates as we go to the top half of the fourth inning of play. We have Eric Hinsky, Adam LaRoche, and Andy LaRoche. 3, 4, and 5 due up in the Pirates' order. Hinsky 0 for 1 on the day. Looks at a strike. The count moves even, a ball and a strike. Fouled out of play, and the count moves to 1-2. So far for Pittsburgh, they have not been able to get much offense going against Nick Blackburn. It's laced foul and out of play. Blackburn, his 40th pitch right there, with 27 of them being strikes. He has shown a lot of good command, and the Pirates have tried to jump early out in front of Blackburn and start swinging at some early pitches in the count, but it hasn't worked out. A couple of tap back to the box and some ground balls throughout.
You know, he hasn't struck out anybody, but he's been pounding the strike zone, like you said, Vinny, and that has been the recipe so far.
Grounder to second. Easy play for Punto, who throws to first in time for the out, and one away.
It's his 8th ground ball out, and we're only 3 1/3 in. I mean, that again, that sinker and slider that he has used effectively so far this season is working again today.
Well, John Russell, the skipper of the Pittsburgh Pirates, he has been put into a position to try to turn this ball club around. And with what he has been able to do so far here in 2009, it seems as if they're on the upswing. The record, 3 games below 500 coming into this contest, but they're playing much better as a unit.
Well, he has Minnesota ties, and that's the interesting thing. He knows most of these people. He managed in the minor leagues when Ron Gardenhire was the major league manager. He started out in 1995 at the lowest level in Elizabethton, which is down in the Appalachian League. Worked his way up through the system to high A ball, Fort Myers, double A in New Britain. He was manager of the year in Edmonton in the PCL. If you look at some of the players that he managed in the minor leagues, he managed Michael CUDDYER, Kyle Loesch, J.C. Romero, Casey Blake, A.J. Perzinski, David Ortiz, Jock Jones. Quite a resume.
Another tapper over to second that Punto is able to make the play, so Adam LaRoche is down for the second out of the inning.
And I really think that what the idea that Pittsburgh has had is to take the experience that John Russell and others, Larry Corrigan in the front office, that they had in Minnesota, take it and combine it with what Neil Huntington, the general manager, brought from Cleveland, and to try to build on the success of what the Twins have and bring that model to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I think that's the idea. They've had a terrific start. You know, obviously you're going to have some pitfalls. They missed out on an opportunity 3 years ago to draft Matt Wieters as a catcher, but they did go out and they signed the best, drafted and signed the best amateur player last year in the draft in Pedro Alvarez. He's in their minor league system. They drafted a very good, experienced catcher, college catcher out of Boston College named Tony Sanchez with a draft this year. So they're going in the right direction.
Our MLB.com draft analyst, Jonathan Mayo, who is really breaking down the Pirates draft this year, thought that they had a very good system in place by taking Tony Sanchez, maybe a little bit better for signability purposes, and then stocking it later on in the draft, going with some other guys as an option to be able to stack that farm system, and it seemingly worked out. As LaRoche taps over to first, Morneau there to make the play for yet another unassisted play over at first, and Nick Blackburn continues to roll. We move to the bottom half of the fourth inning of play. It's the Twins 2 and the Pirates nothing on MLB.TV. We move to the bottom half of the fourth inning of play. The Minnesota Twins hold a 2-0 lead over the Pittsburgh Pirates. Both runs driven in by Justin Morneau. He's going to get credit for just one RBI as he grounded into the double play in the bottom half of the third inning of play, resulting in the second run of the game for the Minnesota Twins. It will be Jason Kubel, Joe CREDE, and Brian Busher to lead things off here for the Twins in the bottom half of the fourth inning of play against Zach Duke. First pitch swinging, grounder over towards first. Nice backhanded play by LaRoche, who's there to step on the bag for out number one.
Interesting approach there with Kubel. His last at bat, 3-2, Duke threw him a slider away that he flew out to left field. This time, it almost looks like he's looking breaking ball here, first pitch. You hardly ever see a guy swinging a breaking ball first pitch. He had to have been looking there and grounds it out to first base.
So Zach Duke trying to get himself back into a rhythm that he had towards the end of the first and there in the second as well, too, as Joe CREDE looks at a first pitch ball. CREDE 0 for 1 in the game.
We talked about John Russell the last half inning. Now with the Twins up, Ron Gardenhire. You want to talk about, again, why the Pittsburgh Pirates are trying to emulate the Minnesota Twins? It's guys like Ron Gardenhire. He's been the manager here since 2002, his first year here as a manager. They went on and won 90 games that year. He's had an overall winning percentage of .546. The only sub-500 season he had was 2007. Other than that, he's had 5 90-win seasons. He had 4 playoff appearances, 5 Central Division titles. Really a tremendous track record. And he is the beneficiary of what was built before him. Obviously, the imprint of Tom Kelly lasted here with Ron Gardenhire, but Gardenhire deserves a lot of credit because after that year or two that Kelly gets the credit, now it's on Gardenhire's shoes. He is for sure a player's manager, and he's a manager when you have a GM and you want to hand over young players. He's a guy that develops players at the major league level.
CREDE lifts one into deep center field. McCutchen goes back just shy of the wall and able to make the running grab for out number 2.
McCutchen had a nice jump on that play. That was one thing when they sent him down to the minor leagues, he's still a young kid, they wanted him to improve upon his jumps and his reads in the outfield. You see McCutchen, that is not an easy ball to track down. It wasn't just because he has tremendous speed. He got a very good read on that play.
Yeah, you're right, Jim. He made it look easier than it probably seemed like it was going to be off the bat. So nice play by McCutchen for the second one.
A lot of times you see young players, young outfielders, fear the fence. They get close to the fence, and you see them shy away. There's some major league veterans that shy away from the fence as well, but McCutchen didn't seem to show that fear there.
Chopped foul and out of play, so the count's 1-1. Getting back to Gardenhire, too, you brought up a lot of great points about what he's been able to accomplish. What I've been impressed with is that as well as the Twins front office has been, and they've done a great job bringing in talent, they've also seen a lot of their top talent leave. I mean, Johan Santana leaves 1 year, Troy Hunter leaves 1 year, and every year Ron Gardenhire has to take this new formed team without perhaps his best player and somehow do it again, and he does.
That's a very good point. If you look at Johan Santana, really the only player they have to show that's playing at the major league level right now is Carlos Gomez. Philip Umber was designated for assignment. He's in the minor leagues. Chase Mulvey, another pitcher they got in that deal, he's down in the minor leagues. So that trade hasn't worked out all that well. The other trade that they made last offseason, which was Matt Garza, how good would Matt Garza look in a Twins starting rotation right now? They trade he and Jason Bartlett, and they get back Delman Young, and Delman Young has not been the player since he left Tampa Bay. If they had gotten anywhere near the production out of those trades, boy, you'd hate to see where they'd be right now.
Fly ball center field once again. McCutchen a couple of steps to his left, able to make the play for the third and final out of the inning. So a 1-2-3 frame for Zach Duke. We go to the top half of the fifth inning of play with the Twins leading by a score of 2-0. This is MLB.TV. So far throughout this early portion of the game here, Jim, what's the reason for it? He's getting a lot of ground balls.
Well, you see his sinker is really working tonight. That's been his bread and butter all season. He has had, of the 12 outs that he's had today, 11 of them have come from the ground ball. Done a nice job filling his position. Obviously, the infield's done a nice job. He himself helped himself out in that important end of the third inning there on the 1-6-3. Got a couple guys out in front on that slider as well. He's really done a nice job being aggressive in the zone.
One of the very first line drives actually hit by anybody in a Pirate lineup, and it's a first pitch base hit for Brandon Moss back up the middle.
The only guy right now seems to have him figured out is Brandon Moss. That's his second hit of the game. He's given up 4, and two have gone to Brandon Moss.
Well, last time around, Moss had a 2-out double. This time he leads off an inning with a single, so the Pirates will look to get something cooking here in the top half of the 5th inning of play. Jason Jaramillo, the left-handed hitting catcher, now steps in. 2-0 Minnesota. Both runs driven in by Justin Morneau. An RBI double in the second, and he grounded into a double play in the third, and the runner scored from third.
You know, we talked about the production that the Pirates have gotten at the catcher slot while Ryan Duman's been out. Duman obviously had the wrist surgery in April 23rd. Duman's now back. He's taken some dry swings this past Saturday. All week he's taken the dry swings. He's going to hopefully be able to hit off the tee at the end of this week, sometime either Friday or Saturday. But this is a guy that was in the hit cleanup for them. They signed him to a long-term deal, hit 15 home runs, almost 70 RBIs last year. So to miss him in that middle of that lineup for the beginning of the season, obviously the Pirates are affected offensively.
The Pirate lineup doesn't have a lot of power. In fact, that's been the one knock so far this year. It's where's the power coming from? It has been few and far in between. Freddie Sanchez, who's not in today's game, had a grand slam the other day. He has had a couple home runs this year. Obviously, Adam LaRoche is leading the way. You're going to get a couple from Hinsky or from Andy LaRoche as well, too. But power is the one thing that's really missing in this Pirates lineup.
They're last in the National League in home runs at this point. And that's what made last night's game when they hit 4 so unusual.
So just when you think you've figured it out and you've scouted everything, the Pirates hit 4 home runs in a game and beat Jake too.
Yeah, it's enough to drive an advanced scout crazy. You know, they have no power, so lay it in there, and then they hit 4 over the fence. They haven't scored. I mean, they're below average in terms of runs scored as well, 9th in runs scored. You know, the on-base percentage, we talked about how aggressive they are at the plate. They're second to last in the National League in walks, 15th overall. So, again, they're doing some good things, but there's still some things as a young team you see them being a little overly aggressive.
Round to the second. Here it is once more. To second for 1. To first for 2. Double play. And another ground ball helps out Nick Blackburn. 2 away here in the top of the 5th.
Again, looked like another sinker down in the strike zone, and Jaramillo rolled over it, hit it right to the second baseman. This is a routine 4-6-3 double play. Not even close at first.
So Blackburn erases that leadoff single. And with 2 away, Ramon Vasquez is going to step in. Yeah, it turned very well by that Twins defense. Outside ball 1. I'll tell you what, it does keep the defense on their toes. They know at all times something could be coming right to them, especially in that infield. You know you're going to get true hops for the most part, right?
Yeah, not many bad hops, obviously, on turf, and I think that's one of the reasons. When you looked at their defense, they've only committed 23 errors all season. That's the fewest in all of baseball. You're starting to see why. I mean, obviously at home you're going to get true hops, but they make the fundamental plays. They don't beat themselves. Again, that's a 4-6-3 double play. They had the 1-6-3 double play earlier. Their defense has been stellar this year.
The 2-1 pitch on the way. Vasquez lifts it straight up in the air, back behind second base. Calling everyone off is Punto. He's there. And reels it in for out number 3. So the leadoff single goes by the wayside as Blackburn able to get the double play, then the pop-up after that. We go to the bottom half of the 5th inning of play with the Twins out in front 2-0 over the Pirates on MLB.tv. And we move to the bottom half of the fifth inning of play with the Pirates trailing the Minnesota Twins by a score of 2-0. A look there at the Herb Carneal press box at the Metrodome. The final season at the Metrodome before a move into the new ballpark. There you go. There's the countdown. 46 games left, and that includes today before the Open next year. Obviously, that could also include perhaps some postseason games as well, too. But the Twins are hoping that. But either way, you're looking at outdoor baseball in 2010.
It's going to be a big change for Twins fans. I mean, you're used to knowing that you're going to be playing the ball game. Now it's going to be up in the air when you have a bad weather day.
First pitch swinging once again, and Andrew McCutchen really able to grab that Mike Redmond fly ball out in right center field for out number 1. Great play by McCutchen.
Again, McCutchen has really impressed me so far with his speed and obviously the range out in the outfield. It looked like he was playing towards right center. In right field, it looked like he was playing towards center field. But still, making that play on the run, he's playing to the right field side of second base, as you saw there. But still, nice play, very good positioning by the Pirates.
So with one away, that'll bring up Nick Punto. Punto is 1 for 1 and a run scored so far today. First pitch he sees is just off the plate, and the count is 1-0.
You know, Duke has really settled down. We talked about this earlier, but since that bases-loaded double play grounder that he got Justin Morneau to ground into, he's retired every batter that he's faced. That seemed to settle him down. He was in a very difficult situation, obviously. Was able to get out of it with only 1 run.
Pirates just looking for any sort of offense here so far to be able to help out Zach Duke. 2 runs through 4 1/3 right now so far. And the pitch once more to Punto is down low, and the count moves to 2-1. Well, so the Twins, they'll move into that new ballpark, and I know there will be some things that the players and fans will miss. They won't maybe say it vocally right away, but certainly moving from a multi-purpose facility into a baseball-only one is important. But they're going to lose out on that dome with the white ceiling, that they'll lose out, perhaps helping out the home defense as opposed to the road. But what about, here's another big one, how about just the sound? I mean, a lot of people say that the Metrodome is perhaps the loudest park in all of baseball.
When it is full, it is a distinct advantage at home, and it can unnerve you if you're a visiting team, if you're not used to it. So, yeah, that is a huge advantage as well.
Out in front, lifted down the left field line, giving a long run is Nyjer Morgan, almost able to make the play, but it gets out behind his glove. Moving over towards second is Punto. He's going to turn the corner, make his way to third, diving head first, and the throw is not in time, so a triple for Nick Punto on that play on one heck of an attempt by Nyjer Morgan.
Well, you know, I'm not sure where Morgan was playing here. It didn't seem like he was had to go an awfully long way on a ball. That ball was up in the air a long time, too. It was almost Punto when he first hit it. He looked like the way he reacted that he was going to be a fly ball out. Morgan looked like he was playing more in left center, had to go a long way, couldn't come up with it, made a nice effort here. Then he had a little trouble as he went back to get it, but he tried to barehand it, and he couldn't pick the ball up, and I think that's what allowed Punto to go to third. I wouldn't be surprised. So you get Punto's disgusted right there after that swing because it looks like he thought it's going to be an out, and he didn't really run, and then all of a sudden, look at it, he holds up at second, and then he goes to third because Morgan can't get the ball. I wouldn't be surprised if they give him an error here on him after he got to second base, he couldn't get the ball.
So the official scoring is a double and then an error that allows Punto to get over to third.
You know, a little bit of inexperience there. That's where the inexperience, in the outfield, a guy like Morgan who's had a year under his belt, he has tremendous speed. We talked about that. But a guy that you'd like to see him, I'm not sure where he was, with a left-hander, not really a blazing fastball, a guy who's been getting a lot of off-speed outs. You want to have your left fielder play more straight away. You look at, even now, he's playing more left center with a right-handed hitter up.
A chance to tack on another run for Minnesota as Gomez fouls it back behind home plate and out of play. Runner on third with just 1 out. Well, Jim, the hustle was certainly there. The attempt at the dive was certainly there, but I think you're right. It was a little curious as to why he was playing so far into left center, why the Pirates chose to have him there with Redmond the righty out.
It makes you wonder. I mean, and they have, they have more information than we do, but right now, you see even Morgan now, after that play where Punto pulled it down the left field line, he's still playing more toward left center than he is straight away, again, with a right-handed batter and left-handed pitcher. Now, I know they're working away to the right-handed hitters a lot, so you'd like to think that the hitters are going to go the other way, but in that situation, obviously Punto thought he had hit that ball into an out, and Nigel Morgan wasn't close to it.
I think only if, because you have so much speed between Morgan and McCutchen out in left and center, that there's an awful lot of space down the left field line. Any ball that's hit in between Morgan and McCutchen at this point is clearly going to be flagged down.
Sure. If you look at the way the outfield's played, they have a lot of space down both lines, right field line as well. I mean, the right fielder's not playing as far to right center as Morgan is left center, but they are pinching the middle, so to speak, and they're giving the line. So,
here's a great look at it here.
Obviously, as a play down either line, especially down the left field line, you can leg out a triple like Punto did.
A ball and 2 strikes to Gomez, the speedy center fielder for the Twins. Pitch on the way. In the dirt and blocked by Jaramillo. No advancement by the runner. 2-2.
One of the things Gomez has really had to work on, this is not, as a young hitter, he has not been very selective over his career, and that was one thing that you had to watch, and he got better as the season went on last year with Minnesota. He's already worked a walk so far today, and now he gets behind 0-2, and he's at least worked the count so far to 2-2.
Grounded over towards third. Having to get back to the bag is Punto. The throw to first in time for the out. A nice defensive play by Andy LaRoche. 2 away in the inning.
Interesting play here. Normally you see with 1 out, man on third, runner's going to go on contact here, but the infield's playing in, so now they want to wait for the ball to get through. Obviously the ball doesn't get through. Punto has to dive back to third base. That's a good base running play right there to not get thrown out at home. But again, the key there is the infield's playing in. You can't go on contact. You shouldn't go on contact.
Well, Punto's first move was towards the plate, but then he had the sense to get back real quickly, and he kind of got a little lucky there. If not for the quick stumble by LaRoche, he might have been tagged out. But either way, good base running, good defense, just a good all-around play.
Right, nice play, and again, you're at third, LaRoche, you got one chance to go after Punto. And if you don't think you can get him, you got to come up and throw hard and fast to first, because Gomez can get down the line.
Right. Here's Brendan Harris. He's 2 for 2. So with 2 outs, he'll look to drop another single in there and try to grab that third run of the game for the Twins, get some extra insurance. Zach Duke has had really 2 little hiccups in this game. The first inning, and only allowed 1 run to score. Then in the third, he was able to get a bases loaded, nobody out, ground ball double play from Justin Morneau, which did result in a run, but limited the damage, Jim, as you were talking about a little bit earlier. Outside of that, Duke has looked just as effective, really, as Blackburn has been throughout this game.
Yeah, he was in a little bit of trouble, like you said, that third inning. And really, since that double play ground ball with Morneau, he's pitched well. Obviously, Punto, he made a really good pitch on Punto. That normally is an out. He ends up giving up a double, and the guy gets to third. So now he's got to pick up his defense here. He so far has done that with Gomez. Let's see what he can do here with Harris.
2 balls and a strike, and you certainly want to go after Harris here in this plate appearance, because that's Justin Morneau sitting on deck, and he already has 1 RBI in the game, and he's the reason the second run was driven in as well, too. This one hit hard into right center field, coming on as McCutchen, and boy, anything hit out there is going to be swallowed up by Andrew McCutchen. More great defense by the rookie, and he holds this to a 2-0 Twins lead. We move to the top half of the 6th at the Metrodome. It's Minnesota 2, Pittsburgh nothing on MLB.TV.
Well, once again, the Pirates have traded away a big-time player, and this time, I just don't think it was the right time to make the move. I felt like the club was really making big strides, the pitching staff has come together, and Nate McLouth was the glue that held that team together. The center fielder, an all-star, and he's still in the prime of his career. I thought it was somebody they could build around. Now, I understand Andrew McCutchen is coming up to the big leagues, and he's an exciting young player. Tremendous speed. He's going to cover great ground out there. Not a whole lot of power, but he is the type of guy that you can start at the top of the order and lead off games or hit second and be very productive. It's great for him to start his major league career and get an opportunity to play every day.
All right, so there's the thoughts of Harold Reynolds on the deal as you take a look at Andrew McCutchen. Certainly when you look back at this trade that the Pirates made with the Atlanta Braves, they get back some good youth in return. But Nate McClouth was a young talent in his own right as he heads to Atlanta. But you have to kind of remember that even though they didn't acquire him, it opened up a spot for McCutchen. And Jim, give me your thoughts on what McCutchen could do and what McClouth maybe also could still accomplish well with the Braves.
Well, I tell you, I didn't like this trade for the main reason why McClouth is he's still in his prime. He's 27 years old. He could play center field. He's a guy that they were had told their fans they were going to build around.
Fly ball center field. Gomez goes way back, just shy of the 408 sign on the center field wall and picks up out number 1. That's Jack Wilson retiring.
Now McClouth was a guy that they just signed to a multi-year contract in February, went out and told their fan base that he was going to be the building block of their organization, and they were going to build around him and make him their future centerpiece. And then 3 months later, they're going ahead and they're trading him to Atlanta. Now, for 3 pieces, I thought this was an awful lot to ask of their fan base, who have been struggling and haven't seen a winning season since 1992. However, you take a look at some of the pieces. Obviously, McCutchen coming up, that helps soften some of the blow. Charlie Morton, who was ineffective with the Braves, got 15 starts last year. He comes up and he gets a chance to start this Saturday for the Pirates, so you'll see him in action. Gorkis Hernandez is a young, athletic outfielder in the mold of Niger Morgan and Andrew McCutchen. He's a guy that is interesting. This is his 3rd organization in about 2 years. He came from Detroit in a trade for Jair Jurgens, but he is athletic. And they got a young pitcher, as we talked about, Jeff Locke, who's a lefty that's going to be a couple years away. But I was critical of it, and I still am. I thought the GM, Neil Huntington, did a nice job at trying to explain it to his fans.
McCutchen shows some speed down the line, but he's retired with out number 2 on that ground ball over towards third base. So 2 outs now in the inning. And you know what? Even hearing more of your explanation of all the players coming back, yes, there's talent there. Yes, there's expectation levels as we take another look at this ground out by McCutchen. But ultimately, you're talking about did they get enough in return then maybe because of where McClouth is simply in his career? That seems to be the overlying statement.
Right. It's very rare do you get a chance to get a guy that's going to hit you 25 to 30 home runs, drive in 90 to 100 RBIs. The Braves, I thought, did a terrific job. For not having to give up any of their top 2 prospects, either Tommy Hanson or Jason Hayward, I thought that was a terrific trade for the Braves, and that's how I valued it. Said, okay, well, the Braves did a terrific job. Therefore, I don't think Pittsburgh got enough. And I think, again, with the message that you're sending, and anytime a GM has to go out and send a letter to their fan base, which is what, in essence, Neil Huntington did, because there was so much criticism, he tried to soften that blow, tried to soften the criticism among the fans and among the ranks, but in the same sense, I don't think he did a good enough job, and I thought really overall they traded a building block rather than a guy that was past his prime.
You see some of the numbers of what Nate McClouth was able to accomplish while with Pittsburgh, and power was certainly a big part of it. Ground ball from Niger Morgan over to third, and Joe CREDE is there to make the play. So quickly, 1, 2, 3, the Pirates go down here in the 6th. We move to the bottom half of the 6th inning of play. It's Minnesota 2, Pittsburgh nothing, and you're tuned to an MLB.TV exclusive. Fans taking in some action here between the Twins and the Pirates. Interleague matchup, the rubber game of this 3-game series. You can see a lot of kids out at the ballpark on a day like this. This is a big camp day, big family day on those getaway day games that teams have before they hit the road.
Apparently not a school day.
It's ground ball foul. Yes, we apologize if we just showed you on TV right there and your teacher just happened to notice.
If the broadcast is on in the classroom and your teacher's watching, we'll apologize ahead of time.
Oh, yeah, it's summertime. Thanks for that help.
Summertime in Minnesota.
Thanks for that help. No, that indicates that there's no school.
They got winter hats up there. They're wearing winter hats on June 17th.
Oh, Jim, you're not catching the point, I think. They're trying to help us. Yes, they're trying to help us. School is out right now, so
okay.
Every day is a baseball game.
We're a little slow here.
All that really says is that each of us, I guess, are far enough removed from school to remember that it's not in session. Ground ball over to second. The throw to first is there in time, so Morneau is retired for the first out of the game.
And far enough removed from the inner workings of Minnesota.
Yes, there you go. And either of us run for governor of the state.
We can have that changed. I think they should go to school a little later. What do you think?
It also sounds like you have a couple of kids that,
yes.
that when school time runs around, well, Jim Duquette's on. Here with former general manager Jim Duquette, Vinny McCucci with you, bottom half of the 6th inning of play. The Twins a 2-0 lead over the Pirates. The first run came in the first inning when Justin Morneau had an RBI double. In the 3rd inning, he grounded into a double play with the bases loaded, and that drove in another run. That has been it so far. Nick Blackburn has been tremendous so far for the Twins. And really, Zach Duke has also looked very good, except for a couple of minor hiccups for the Pirates so far. 2-0 pitch to CUDDYER is driven into deep left center field. Andrew McCutchen gives a chase. He looks up towards the wall, and it's gone! A solo blast from Michael CUDDYER, and the Twins have taken a 3-0 lead here in the bottom of the 6th.
Boy, CUDDYER took that fastball, drove it. The fastball looked like he was trying to get him out away, but he drove the ball came back over the plate. I think it's an interesting point because that's Joe Mauer's spot in the lineup right now. Joe Mauer couldn't have hit a home run better than that right there from Michael CUDDYER.
How about that? The right-handed hitter, Michael CUDDYER, comes through with a solo blast off the lefty, Zach Duke, into straightaway center field. Well, he finally found the first place that Andrew McCutchen can't track a fly ball down.
It's the only one he didn't catch. Jaramillo set up on the outside part of the plate, and you see Duke's fastball came right down the middle. Obviously, CUDDYER took advantage of that mistake, drove it over the center field fence.
Kubel goes down the left field line, giving chases Morgan, but this is going to one-hop into the stands, and it is a ground rule double with one away here in the 6th.
You know, Kubel attacking the first pitch again. His last at bat, he attacked the first pitch curveball. This time it looked like he was looking first pitch fastball. That's what he got. Drove it the other way for an opposite field ground rule double.
Take one more look at this one. Jason Kubel, he keeps a close eye on that pitch and just goes the other way like you had mentioned, Jim. And once again, Morgan still leaving an awful lot of space down there in left field.
Yeah, again,
that's a lefty.
That's a lefty, right. And the right-handers, he's playing him towards right center. With the lefties, you'd think if he's going to do the opposite, maybe he should be playing a little bit more towards left field, but he wasn't in that particular situation. You know, Kubel took that fastball, the outer third, and drove it to left field.
And here's Joe CREDE, and still another look out in left field, and you'll see that Nigel Morgan playing way off the line.
I mean, something has to give. If you're going to play there for righties, then lefties, I would think you're going to have to play. You're going to have to move somewhere else. Really, in the outfield, you're a young outfielder. This is something that the Pirates should be keeping a closer eye on when it comes to positioning. Now, maybe the pitching report is we're going to pitch away, away, and away. But if you're going to pitch away to a left-hander, the left fielder should be playing more towards straight away in left field.
0-2 the count now to CREDE. Well, the action has been fast and furious, so let me catch you up. Michael CUDDYER, that home run was his 10th of the season. Makes it 3-0. Jason Kubel with his 14th double of the year. And with one out, the Twins looking to get even a couple more across here. That's Kubel over on second. Pitch to CREDE is fouled away, and the count still 0-2.
I mean, absent of the double that Duke gave up to Morneau in the first inning, this is really the first inning where he's gotten hit hard. You know, Brendan Harris, his two hits, one was an opposite field up the middle single, and then he pulled one in the hole. Punto hit a ball that went through the hole on the left side, and he also hit a fly ball that probably should have been caught and turned out to be a double. So Duke hasn't been hit all that hard except for this inning.
Now he's got the 1-2 count here to Joe CREDE. 3-0 Minnesota. 1 in the first, 1 in the third, and now 1 here in the sixth, and threatening for more. CREDE 0 for 2 so far today. The 1-2 pitch. That's lifted into left field. Well, this time it appears as if the positioning was perfect for the Pirates as Andrew McCutchen moves a couple of shades to his right, makes the play, tagging and heading over to third with a late throw will be Kubel. So a sacrifice fly moves the runner over, and with 2 outs, the Twins have a runner 90 feet away.
CREDE a little disgusted there. That was a fastball that came in on him, kind of ran in on him, got inside a little bit. Didn't break his bat, but got in a little bit. He was looking fastball. He got it. Something that he would like to have driven. I'm sure he'd like to have this pitch back.
So CREDE was a little disappointed with the effects, but I mean, look at just where the fielders are. Now, on that play, you have 2 speedy guys easily able to make it over to that spot, so you wonder why the room is so much down that left field line for the Pirates, but on a play like that, it worked out.
You know, again, if I'm positioning with the speed that those two have, they don't need to be as close together. I mean, really, a guy like Morgan and McCutchen, they'll cross pass. You know, if they're going for a ball in a gap, many times they'll run into each other. They'll have to be careful. Where if I'm McCutchen, I'm shitting a little bit more towards right field to help out down the right field line, or to the right field side of second base.
Sure, help out Moss on the other side of the outfield. There's a good look at it. I mean, there is a lot of space out there, but it isn't a type of ballpark where left field is so much bigger than right field.
Right. I mean, typically you see...
You're talking about a perfect dimension outfield.
Right. That's exactly right. Typically you see a left fielder playing straight away. He is as we're looking at the screen, as we're looking at the field, it would be to our left, to the outfielder's right, and almost, say, in between shortstop and third. He's playing more towards left center there.
Now, it's a little bit deeper in left field, but in terms of gap to gap, there's not that much difference. Just down the left field line's a little bit deeper than it is down the right field line.
Right. In right field, because of the short porch there and the baggy, it used to be the baggy. Now, is it the baggy still?
It's
still the baggy.
It's kind of the baggy, yeah. You got the baggy going up until those steps start kicking in.
Yeah, I mean, they've generally in the past, the Twins have had below average outfielder in right field. Remember, they had Matt Lawton there. Matt Lawton was not a real good outfielder. He used to play right field. He was more of a prototypical left fielder defensively, but he would play right field at the Metrodome.
So a walk issued by Duke to Brian Busher. So with 2 outs, it'll now be up to Mike Redmond with runners on the corners to get some work done.
Only the second walk by Duke. And having a little bit of trouble here in the 6th inning. It's good to see Joe Kerrigan walk out there, see if he can calm Duke down. You know, he hasn't thrown a ton of pitches, but this is an area where certainly he's thrown 102. It's not a ton of pitches, 102 at 6, but of course, once you get to that 100-pitch mark, we always hear about that here lately, that's when guys are starting to look down to the bullpen. Is there somebody warming up down there at the 100-pitch mark?
Yeah, so, you finally got something moving here at this point now. For the Pirates, in their bullpen, they have Jesse Chavez warming up, the right-hander, taking a couple of throws and ready to go if need be. Earlier in the year, the big issue for the Pirates was bullpen. That has improved, but I remember early in the season reading a lot of articles. Jennifer Langosh is the writer with the Pittsburgh Pirates with MLB.com, and frequently her articles started out with the bullpen did it again.
Yeah, they don't have a ton of power arms in that bullpen. They don't have a lot of strikeouts. Generally, when relievers come into the ball game, they're coming in with guys on base. You need a strikeout. They don't have a big guy. The one big guy that they have that's a strikeout guy is Tyler Yates. He's been on the disabled list. He's still on the DL and went down to Bradenton, Florida, to the rehab facility. So, for the most part, that's been an area that they need to improve.
Lifted into left field. Morgan coming on in. McCutchen calls him off, and there to make the play for the final out of the inning. So the Pirates do allow one. It's a solo home run to Michael CUDDYER. It's a 3-0 lead now for the Minnesota Twins. You're tuned to MLB.com. We move to the top half of the 7th inning of play. Nick Blackburn still out on the hill for the Minnesota Twins, and he has been very effective so far. Look at his line, 6 innings of work, no earned runs, and 4 hits allowed. And it has been the story, all ground ball outs, as you were talking about a little bit earlier, Jim. He's been very effective at keeping this Pirate lineup off balance.
He's really kept them off balance. They've been aggressive swinging at pitches. And, you know, that really, when you look at a sinker, that's one of the most difficult pitches as a hitter to square up. You see this generally if you have a good sinker. It is a hard pitch to drive. You don't see a lot of balls hit hard. And most of the time you see guys drive it into the ground, and that's what they've done today. 15 of his 18 outs are ground ball outs.
To give you an idea, you were talking last half inning about Zach Duke going over the 100-pitch mark, and he's pitching fairly well.
Right.
For Nick Blackburn, this right here is pitch number 71, and it's lifted into left field. Kubel goes back just shy of the track up against the wall to make the play for the first out of the inning. 71 pitches so far for Nick Blackburn, and he's got 1 out in the 7th.
You know, again, the best way to try to hit the sinker is, as a left-handed hitter, try to take the ball the other way, drive it the other way. That was the right approach there with Hinske, taking the ball and driving it the other way. He just didn't get enough on it. Put a good swing on it. But for the most part, what you're seeing with some of these hitters, and Hinske has been guilty of it 2 other times, is you take that sinker and you pull over, you actually pull it to the right side, you end up grounding out, which he's grounded out to both first and second base.
Not to put you on the spot here, Jim, but I mean, your opinion on the Metrodome now that it's closing, but hitter's park or pitcher's park for the most part?
Well, I really considered it a hitter's park for the most part, you know, especially with that shorter portion right field. I mean, it's tough pitching on turf for a pitcher, especially if you're a sinker ball pitcher, and even if you were, you had good velocity, it wasn't the easiest place to pitch. I always viewed the Metrodome as more of a hitter's park. Interestingly, the new ballpark, when you talk to Bill Smith, the general manager, they're talking about hopefully it playing similar to the Metrodome, but you never really know until you play the thing out. Just like what we're seeing, dimension-wise, it's going to be fairly similar. Obviously, it's going to be grass, but what you're going to see, and again, you hope it plays like the Metrodome to some degree, and balls don't carry, but you got Citi Field. Obviously, it's a pitcher's park, a real big pitcher's park. You got Yankee Stadium so far. It's been a huge hitter's park, and really what you're trying to do if you're building that stadium, and Bill Smith even said it, we hope it plays as similar as we can to the Metrodome without really knowing until you play in it for about a year or so.
And there's the first strikeout of the game for Nick Blackburn as he gets Adam LaRoche down swinging. And there are 2 outs in the inning. I'll tell you what, Adam LaRoche has also been the topic of conversation there in Pittsburgh as well, too. He was very vocal when Nate McLouth got traded as he tries to help this Pirates team win some ball games. He might very well be the next name you hear. You
know, he's a guy that you hear rumors about possibly being traded. Really, after they trade McLouth, it seems like everybody's on the trade block or could be. Certainly LaRoche is a guy. Again, a lot of it depends on if there's availability. If somebody out there needs a first baseman long term, the Mets are a team that could use a first baseman, but I don't think they're interested in Adam LaRoche. Also, you look at McLouth. McLouth so far, with that trade, and I understand why LaRoche would be upset. It's a buddy of his, first off, and second off, he has a chance for them to win this year. But McLouth so far has not had a huge impact on the Braves, even though I thought it was a good trade at the time. Their outfield, offensively, is one of the worst in all of baseball. Francoeur has been ineffective. Obviously, Matt Diaz in left field. Jordan Schaefer in center field got sent down on the trade for McLouth. McLouth came over to hit his first home run after a couple games, but they're still 4 games under 500. So, obviously when you make a trade, you hope that it gives you that bump or that boost, but so far that hasn't happened with the Braves.
Right, McLouth with the Braves has not put up big numbers so far, but he has ultimately provided perhaps that extra threat in the lineup that the Braves are looking for, and defensively he certainly is going to hold up his own as well, too. This one lifted first base side, Morneau goes back, calls everyone off, and there to make the play in foul ground for the final out of the inning. Let's move to the bottom half of the 7th inning of play. The Pirates just can't get the offense rolling. The Twins, a 3-0 lead over Pittsburgh. You're tuned to MLB.tv. Well, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, the performance that they got with Zach Duke also fairly impressive. Now, he is going to be on the hook for the loss as of right now because of what Nick Blackburn is doing for the Minnesota Twins. But all in all, for Zach Duke, it hasn't been that bad a day except for a couple of missteps here and there.
Well, he really has pitched well. He did what you're expecting out of your starting pitcher. He kept the hitters off balance. He kept them from getting into the big inning. He obviously, in the third inning, only allowed one run when he had the bases loaded, nobody out. Really, the only inning that he got hit hard was his last one as he approached 100 pitches, which is not unusual for starting pitchers. He started to tire a little bit, gave up the long home run to CUDDYER, then he gave up a hard double to Kubel. He was able to get out of it after Joe Kerrigan went out and talked to him and retired Redmond to end the inning, and obviously his day is over with now.
So the new pitcher in for the Pittsburgh Pirates is Jesse Chavez. We saw him warming up in the bullpen last half inning. He comes in with a record of 0-2 and a 2.63 ERA. Chavez on the hill, the right-hander, and a 1-1 count to Nick Punto, and the third pitch that he sees, I should say, in there for a strike. So the count now is 1-2.
Now, this has been an area of concern for the Pirates. We talked about this earlier, but their bullpen in general has not been as strong as they would like it to be. A big part of that is the back end. Matt Capps has been, I would say, inconsistent. He's blown a number of different saves when they've had a chance to win it. And when that back end is a little bit uneasy, then it makes for the rest of your bullpen to be uneasy. Obviously, the injury to Tyler Yates, who is a big part of their bullpen, that impacts them too. And, of course, if you don't have a ton of strikeouts, it makes it hard to get outs.
Punto is going to be the first strikeout victim of Chavez here in the seventh inning. He's down with one away. Back to the top of the order we go, with the Twins leading 3-0 in the bottom half of the seventh inning of play.
First time Punto made an out today. In fact, he had, single and a double, and then got jammed up in that fastball. Sanchez did a nice job locating that fastball.
So already immediately upset with the new pitcher on the hill is Nick Punto with one away. Carlos Gomez has reached once. He walked back in the third, flew out to right in the first, and grounded out to third. That came back in the fifth. He is 0 for 2 with a walk. And then for a strike.
Chavez has come in so far. He's been very aggressive with his fastball, and that's been impressive. I think that's something that obviously Joe Kerrigan has talked about to the staff in general, especially when you have a young staff. They tend to pick a little bit too much. He's been very aggressive.
Throw over towards first for Wilson is there for the second out of the inning. So Brendan Harris comes up to the plate. The Twins have the lead, so maybe at this point Ron Gardenhire isn't thinking that way, but he still does have Joe Mauer on the bench if he needs to use him at any point during this game. And that's a great weapon, obviously, to have to come off the bench here at this point. But Joe Mauer, a prototypical type player, if we take another look at the ground out, but Joe Mauer, a prototypical type player of somebody that you were talking about earlier, Jim, who is drafted, goes through the whole system, gets his bumps and bruises, and is ready to go and becomes one of the premier hitters in all of baseball. Single into center field for Brendan Harris.
The interesting thing about Mauer, and we talked about this pre-game, is where has the power come from with Mauer? Mauer has made an adjustment with the fact that he understands the pitchers and how they're pitching him now. What that allows him to do is he doesn't have to worry about making contact as much. He's able to take and drive certain pitches. He's got a little bit longer swing, throwing a little bit of the head out and getting some bat speed, and therefore you're seeing balls drive over the fence. He's already equaled his career high in terms of home runs. He's only been playing for a month and a half. So a guy like Mauer, a similar type player who just got called up with the Orioles is Matt Wieters. And Wieters is obviously a guy that I drafted when I was with the Orioles as a first-round draft pick. And we signed him late, gave him a record signing bonus, but he's a guy after a year and a half in the minor leagues came up. And there are some similarities between the two. I mean, Mauer's a better athlete right now. I think ultimately Wieters might end up having more power. He's a switch hitter. But there are some interesting similarities. They're both big guys, 6'5" guys, and both first-round draft picks.
Did you get a chance at all, Jim, to see the Boston College catcher Tony Sanchez? That was the 4th overall selection of the Pirates. How would he compare to what you saw out of Wieters when you selected him with the Orioles and what the Twins obviously have with Matt?
Yeah, Sanchez is a guy that, most people thought the Pirates picked him because of his signability. He was a lower, late-round first-pick guy that projected to be picked there. He was kind of an overdraft. Wasn't necessarily a number 4 pick selection in terms of the value. In terms of an impact bat, I think most people who saw him don't view him in that same mold as Mauer or as Wieters. but maybe that second-tier offensive player and defensive player. Again, a good catch-and-throw guy, a guy that's considered a leader, but not necessarily a guy. Now, you look at that with the Pirates. The Pirates had a chance to take Wieters, and they passed on him as the number 3 pick in the draft that year.
Chopped over towards short. Wilson is there. He's going to make the throw to first to get Morneau for the final out of the inning. So the Twins hold on to that 3-0 lead over the Pittsburgh Pirates as we move to the top half of the 8th inning. A successful inning for Chavez. You're tuned to MLB.tv. Looking for that extra edge to win your fantasy league? Well, if you're going to do it, catch the MLB.com Fantasy 411 weekdays on iTunes. An exclusive blog as well on fantasy411.mlblogs.com. And now on Twitter at Fantasy411. Once again, some first pitch swinging on the part of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and Brandon Moss flies out to right field to Michael CUDDYER for the first out of the inning.
That's 10 in a row now, retired by Blackburn. He really has pitched well all day long. I mean, he's been aggressive in the strike zone, kept the ball down. We keep talking about that. He only has 1 strikeout, but he has 15 ground ball outs and 5 fly ball outs. Very impressive day so far.
That is 82 pitches sound to you so far.
Pretty good.
In the 8th inning.
Pretty good.
Outside, 1-1.
In an era of pitchers going deep into the game, going at a 100-pitch count and only pitching 5 innings, 4 innings sometimes you're seeing some pitchers go. For a guy like Blackburn to have 82 pitches and he's already into the 8th, I mean, this is how you get young pitchers to pitch more complete games. And if you look at it in general, Vinny, I know you follow the game too, the complete games in general, they're on pace to far exceed what we saw in complete games last year. And a big part of that is just being aggressive in the strike zone.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. So Blackburn able to get his second strikeout of the game. This time the victim ends up being Jason Jaramillo for out number 2.
I'll tell you, the thing I really has also been impressive about Blackburn is his pace. They talk about the pace. He gets the ball, he gets the sign, and he's ready to pitch the ball to the plate and attack the hitter. So he's attacking the hitter, but he's also not wasting any time. He trusts, obviously, Mike Redmond. We haven't really talked much about this, but Redmond has called a terrific game. He's kept the hitters off balance, and Blackburn obviously is trusting him. I haven't seen him shake off all day.
Sometimes you'll hear a catcher and a pitcher talk about that afterwards and say, just shake off just to throw the hitters off. But whatever Blackburn's doing is clearly working so far to this point, as he's really behind in the count 2-0 for one of the first times you'll see in this game.
What you generally see, you like to see, is Pittsburgh try to disrupt his rhythm a little bit, step out, try to do something, try to call time when he's in the middle of his line, just try to throw something. He is in such a good rhythm right now, Blackburn is, and really Pittsburgh hasn't done much to try to upset the timing or the rhythm.
Just 4 hits so far for the Pirates. 2 of them came off the bat of Brandon Moss, and he flew out to start out this inning. So really the arch nemesis of Blackburn so far today is already out this inning.
Yeah, Moss was a guy that had been struggling with his offensive approach, and he'd taken about 5 days off to work with the hitting coach. So obviously that time off has been well spent. Maybe that's something that Moss can start to build on.
All right, well, now we're going to get a visit here after the walk to Ramon Vasquez. The Twins maybe might slow things down a little bit themselves. Top half of the 8th inning, 2 outs in this game, in this inning rather, I should say. 3-0 the Twins lead over the Pittsburgh Pirates. Jim, did you have any feelings one way or the other during the course of your general manager career with these 2 organizations? Obviously, we discussed their past, their history. I know you've dealt with them as well, too, when it comes to making trades. Kind of something that you knew going in what their tendencies were.
Sure. I mean, Minnesota was a hard team to trade with because they knew they were very particular what they need, what they wanted, what they needed. They scouted you real well. You didn't really have a good chance or think that you had a chance to pull one over on them. Pittsburgh was a team because they had so much turnover in their front office. You felt like if you could make a good trade with Pittsburgh. I'd made a trade right around the trade deadline for Chris Benson at the time. We got Chris Benson and Jeff Keppinger, who turned out to be one of the sleepers in that trade. We gave up Ty Wigginton, who at the time we thought was a utility player, and really didn't become a good player with Pittsburgh. He became a better player after he left Pittsburgh. And we gave up Jose Bautista, who really hasn't done much. We also gave up a minor league pitcher named Matt Peterson, who never made it to the major league. So we ended up making off in the better of that trade.
Chopper to short. He's going to go the short way, that is, for the out. Harris to Punto for the final out of the inning. And the Pirates unable to score once more. We go to the bottom half of the 8th inning of play. It's Minnesota 3, Pittsburgh nothing. Blackburn continues to cruise. This is MLB.TV. Michael CUDDYER to lead off this inning, but it was back in the 6th inning when he had his biggest swing of the afternoon off of Zach Duke. This shot into deep center field, over the head of Andrew McCutchen, over the center field wall, and it gave the Twins a 3-0 lead. For Michael CUDDYER, it was his 10th home run of the year. And batting in that 4th hole. Now, normally, CUDDYER would be the 5th place hitter in the lineup. Joe Mauer normally hits cleanup along with Justin Morneau. Maybe a mixture in there somewhere along lines. Mauer rather 3rd, then Morneau.
Right.
And you go from there. So you talk about that lineup, how it gets a little bit of an overhaul here for this afternoon's game because you are missing what the Twins fans and the Twins base likes to say, the M&M boys of Mauer, Morneau, and
M&M boys. Yeah, that's the M&M boys. You look at their 3-4 batters in the lineup.
Fly ball into left center field. Morgan, I don't know if
he
he
lost
can see
it.
it. He can't see it. Morgan can't see it. It's going to bounce back behind his head. CUDDYER, who appears to be hustling all the way, is going to slide into third base. And that'll be a leadoff triple. So once again, the ceiling at the Metrodome comes back to hurt the Pirates' defense. Nigel Morgan, Jim, never had a view of that.
We saw that earlier in the series. I think McCutchen was the one who misplayed it. Didn't catch the ball off the bat. Here's Nigel Morgan. Never really looks like he saw it at all. Obviously, that's a ball that he should catch there. McCutchen had to come all the way over and field it. Because of where Morgan's been playing, mostly left center field, that's a routine fly ball. But, of course, he lost it in the ceiling, like we talked about pregame.
Boy, you really have to keep a close eye. This happened the other day as well, too, to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Andrew McCutchen out in center field. Here's another look at it just a couple of days ago. Fly ball, this one into shallow right center field, but McCutchen, halfway through in his run, you just lose track. You don't know where it is, and by the time you regain control, it's too late.
Yeah, in that particular play, he looked like he was looking at the right fielder to make sure that they weren't going to collide. As soon as you take your eye off the ball, you have a chance to lose it.
I tell you what's really dangerous about that, and what goes through my mind when something like that happens, is the player loses it. You're staring blankly up into an area where there's a ball about to land, and you almost hope that if you can't see it, it's not about to hit you.
It is a potentially dangerous situation. There's no question about it. That you see a ball come down and he doesn't know where it is, and it can hit the guy in the head, the face. It could be potentially dangerous. Obviously not there in Morgan's case. He really didn't even have the ball seemingly off the bat. I mean, he's sitting there saying, I cannot see it. Obviously letting McCutchen know, but by that point, McCutchen wasn't paying attention either. He thinks it's a routine fly ball and it ends up dropping in for a triple.
The 0-2 pitch to Kubel is in the dirt, blocked by Jaramillo, so it's now 1-2. So the Twins looking to add on yet another run here in the bottom half of the 8th inning of play.
You know, we were talking earlier about the positioning, obviously, and Morgan was already positioned to left center. So that fly ball, all you have to do is keep an eye on that ball, and he has that routine fly. Should easily catch that ball again because he's not paying attention and watching the ball entirely. And again, youth plays into this too. He's a guy that's never played in the Metrodome. Obviously, interleague play plays into it a little bit too because you're not used to that in other ballparks.
Ground over to first. A nice grab by LaRoche, and I believe he's also going to hold the runner. Yes, he does. CUDDYER unable to get off the bag on that play.
Just hit too hard for CUDDYER to make the play. And obviously, with nobody out, you're not going to go on contact there.
CUDDYER holds. It was hit sharply, but LaRoche there able to make the...
That is not an easy play, Vinny. That's to his backhand. Now, I know it's right at him, and it's a little bit of a short hop, but LaRoche really made that look easier than it is.
This one hit to third. They're going to go home with it. The throw is in time to get Michael CUDDYER. So a nice throw from third base from the other LaRoche to home, where Jaramillo's there to make the tag. And that will be out number 2.
Now, there's a play where earlier in the game we had a chance with, I think it was Kubel on third base. He didn't go on contact. Now, this play, after one out and on third, CUDDYER is going on contact. That's the play to do. If I'm going to be critical at all, you sit there and say, geez, the infield's in. Maybe you want to get yourself into a rundown here and try to get Joe CREDE to second base. But, again, CUDDYER trying to make the play, trying to get in under the tag. It's a bang-bang play. I think we're splitting hairs a little bit criticizing him there.
And also another positive on that play, too, is the way Jaramillo, and too many catchers, I feel, don't do this as much anymore, maybe as much as the old-school catchers might have done it, but a real nice job blocking the plate. He got his right leg down in the way of CUDDYER, so any slide wouldn't have worked. This is hit deep to right field, way up towards the foul pole. Will it have the distance? It certainly does. This ball is gone. A home run off the bat of Brian Busher, and the Twins, with that 2-run shot, take a 5-0 lead.
Well, it doesn't look like that fielder's choice ground ball where CUDDYER gets thrown out at home. That's not going to be an issue now. This obviously, Busher drives his pitch inside fastball to right field for a home run. Really, these are add-on runs that give you a little bit more comfort. Maybe you don't have to go to Joe Nathan in the ninth.
Brian Busher just took a high fastball and absolutely deposited that one deep over the baggie to the top row of seats just below the luxury level there at the Metrodome, and a nice blast by Busher, a 2-run shot, and it helps the Twins out to that 5-0 lead. So Mike Redmond 0 for 3 on the day. And time is called.
You know, we were talking about this, and I don't know if we'll have enough time to get into it, but we talked about Morneau and Maurer, getting back to the M&N boys. You talk about 3-4 hitters in the game. Now, these two guys, I think, are unheralded. You got to put them up there with Teixeira and A-Rod, Maurer, Morneau, Utley, Howard, Beltran, and Wright. Those 4 groups, for me, are the best 3-4 hitters in the game.
All right, well, for the Twins, it was all about offense this inning as well, too. A 2-run shot. Here it is off the bat of Brian Busher. And the Minnesota Twins have a 5-0 lead going into the top half of the 9th inning of play. You're tuned to MLB.tv. He's looking for, like, he was probably pinpointing perfectly when you get a chance to talk to him after the game.
Aggressive in the strike zone, keeping the ball down, facing a lineup that is very aggressive in a Pittsburgh Pirate Club. Young, free swinging, hasn't thrown a ton of pitches, just getting himself into the 90 pitch count. So still should have a lot left in the tank. Now, interestingly, has not thrown a complete game in any of the last 3 years. 07, 08, or this year. This would be his first.
The opportunity stares him in the face right now. He's got Andrew McCutchen in the 1-2 count, a 5-0 lead. You saw Joe Nathan is warming up in the Twins bullpen in case of an emergency, but I have to believe that Ron Gardenhire would want to see Blackburn close this one out. He's only thrown 94 pitches. So you try to get this done the next 10 to 15 pitches, let him go. Hit over towards third. What a grab by Joe CREDE on a line drive. Joe CREDE, the third baseman for the Twins, with a nice defensive play for out number 1.
Wow, what a play by CREDE. This is a guy that obviously has battled back problems, but when he's healthy, he is a Gold Glove caliber third baseman. Just a tremendous reaction. You see him get himself set and a little bit of a hop before the pitch is going to be hit. He makes one step, dive to his left, comes up with a play. Tough play, great play by Joe CREDE.
Now, I tell you what, Jim, it doesn't seem that big because it's a 5-0 game, but that right there could be the difference for a complete game and a non-complete game. Because that leadoff guy gets on, all of a sudden Gardenhire's got his foot on the gas just in case. And once more, another line drive by Nigel Morgan. And who's there to make the play but Joe CREDE? 2 great defensive plays, 2 outs here in the ninth.
You better check the web on that one. That ball was hit, almost went through his glove. That was smoke, but right at him. This is a different play, obviously. He's playing in, thinking that he might bunt. Boom, right at him. Almost in self-defense. Make sure it doesn't hit you.
One more look at it. Nigel Morgan, well, he's had a couple of tough at-bats so far today, a couple of tough plays in the outfield, but that one's going to sting the most. He got a nice piece of the bat on it, but it just didn't work out. Now the fans can sense it getting loud at the Metrodome. 2 outs, top half of the 9th inning of play. Eric Hinsky, all that stands in front of Nick Blackburn in his first career complete game. Pitch on the way. That just misses. Count 2-0.
Well, we're right at the 2-hour mark, Vinny. I mean, the fans just got a chance to buy their second box of popcorn. I mean, they're not even finishing the popcorn yet. This game's in the 9th inning with 2 outs.
The 2-0 pitch on the way. That's laced. This is deep into right field, going back and just over the glove of Michael CUDDYER up against the wall. So Hinsky will make his way in with a double. He turns, a wide turn, but makes his way back to second base. So with 2 outs, Hinsky comes through with a double over the glove of Michael CUDDYER.
Tough play. I mean, CUDDYER, that's one of those that you hope and think that CUDDYER can make that play. Obviously, he doesn't. It's just hit so hard by Hinsky, but it would have been a nice play to end the game. They had 2 line drives at the third baseman and then a leaping catch potentially with the right fielder.
So that'll bring up Adam LaRoche. CUDDYER had a couple of opportunities out in center field earlier in the week as well, too. Has a good arm. Lots of outfield assists as well, too. Really fits well in that right field position. He had bounced around from third base, a couple of infield position, tried his hand at second as well, too. Became kind of like the Twins' utility guy for a while, and then settled in nicely to become their everyday right fielder.
Yeah, CUDDYER battled some injuries last year, and it's nice to see that he's healthy. He's one of those players that you like to watch play. He's a gamer, plays hard. He's exactly the Twins type of player, the guy who came up through their system.
At just 30 years old, too, he will have plenty more years of baseball still under his belt.
Yeah, he still has another year left. Actually, signed through next year. He's $8.5 million next year. A pretty expensive option. I mean, a pretty expensive salary. I mean, he's a guy that you want to see more production out of. You don't like to see a utility player for the Twins making $8.5 million. So you obviously like to see him drive in a few more runs.
Former utility player. He is
right.
He's the everyday guy now. But
he's
you're right.
Everyday guy.
I think they would like to see a little bit maybe more offensively, and there still is the offense there, but they average up a little bit as well too. But either way, right now, a 1-2 count. The fans on their feet, they are aching for a Nick Blackburn complete game shutout here at the Metrodome. The 1-2 to LaRoche. Upstairs.
That was his 104th pitch. I'll give you a little difference. Zach Duke, 104 pitches in 6 innings today, 61 strikes. Blackburn, 104 pitches today. That's 8, gets him to 8 2/3.
The 2-2 ripped up the middle and through for a base hit. CUDDYER comes over to make the play. The run will score, though. And it is a 5-1 game, so the shutout goes out the window with 2 outs here in the 9th inning.
Yeah, he's starting to tire a little bit, Benny. You start to see that sinker come up in the strike zone a little bit here in that last inning. He's had a couple balls hit hard, a couple nice plays defensively. There's another sinker that really didn't sink much at all. And obviously LaRoche drives that up the middle for a nice RBI single.
So here's Andy LaRoche. First pitch strike. Still an opportunity for that complete game, of course. Joe Nathan warming up in the Twins bullpen, but little movement on that Twins bench right now, trying to let Blackburn get through this one. Ground ball towards second. Grabbed on a dive by Punto. The throw to first. A nice defensive play puts a capper on this one. Nick Blackburn, a complete game victory for the Minnesota Twins, a 5-1 win for Minnesota. A game that saw a home run by Michael CUDDYER, an RBI